Emory Tate stuns opponent with brilliant move. We have a fantastic attacking game today that features some of the most brilliant moves I think you'll ever see. The game was played in 2007 at the World Open in Pennsylvania, and Emory has the white pieces and is playing against an American international master who goes by the name of Salvius Bursi. Emory was rated 2406 and Salvius Bursi was rated 2438. So a very high rated game. So Emory opens up with e4, his favourite way to start the game. His opponent goes c5, the Sicilian defence, and now knight f3. And now the funny looking move, Queen c7. This is known as the Quintanero's variation, a variation that is played less than 0.1% of the time. However, white can still transpose into some of the main lines of the Sicilian here, and the most popular move for white is knight c3. However, we actually see the move c4 by Emory. e6, knight c3, and now we see the move a6, so just restricting this knight from coming to the b5 square, where it would be hitting this queen on b7. After a6, we see the move d4, cd4, knight d4, and after knight f6, we have transposed into one of the main lines of the Sicilian, the Con variation. This position has been reached over 2,000 times, and some of the most popular ways for white to continue here are moves like a3, bishop e2, even bishop d3. However, Emory Tate goes with the 6th most popular move and goes queen e2. This queen e2 move threatens to push the pawn to e5, where it would kick the knight away and would be forced to return to a very ugly square, and white would have a big spatial advantage here. So for that reason, black neutralizes this threat with the move d6, preventing any e5 pushes. White needs to finish off his development here, so goes g3, preparing to fianchetto with his bishop to the g2 square as his queen blocks the light square bishop's normal route, and black continues with the same idea and goes b6, preparing to develop his own light square bishop to this nice b7 square. And now 90% of the time, white plays bishop g2. However, Emory decides to go bishop g5, saying if you're going to play bishop b7, I can actually double your pawns here and damage your pawn structure. So for that reason, after bishop g5, we actually see the move knight d7 by black. And after knight d7, Emory actually played a novelty, not going bishop g2, but bishop h3. This move has a lot of poise behind it, because if a move like bishop e7 is played, we can actually take here. And after this, hitting this queen and this, the queen has to move. After knight g7 and king f8, Emory can simply slide his knight back, and Emory has gained 3 pawns for the piece. Plus, he has a great attack. He's about to castle. We can either castle kingside or queenside, and black can't castle. His king's in the middle of the board. This would be very strong for Emory. Bishop b7 was played, putting pressure on this e4 pawn, and now Emory simply castles his king to safety, as king safety is the #1 principle in chess. However, after bishop b7, Emory did say he was looking at potential sacrifices with bishop e6, pawn e6, and knight e6, hitting this queen, and after a move like queen c8, he thought maybe he could bring his knight to d5, maybe kind of make some sort of attack, but this game was a very high stakes game, and just wasn't really willing to take such a risk here. Even the engine agrees that black is slightly better here, so it wouldn't have paid off. So after bishop b7, it was maybe a bit too risky for Emory to take on e6, so instead he decided for the more solid option and decided to castle his king. And after that, we saw the move knight e5 by black. And Emory wasn't too happy with knight e5, because black gains a bit of an initiative here, as black is actually going after this pawn on c4, centralizing the knight. So for that reason, this pawn is actually under attack, so Emory goes b3 here, defending it. And now we actually see the move b5, which seemingly wins a pawn, because this pawn cannot be taken with a move like cb5, because this knight just simply hangs. And as you see, there's no really way for white to add another defender to this pawn. There's just no knight moves. There's only just a queen and a pawn defending it. However, there's 1, 2, 3 attackers on this pawn, so it's bound to be lost. So here Emory plays the move bishop f6, gf6, and now the move queen h5. Very nasty move, because if this is taken now, we can actually take here on e6, hitting the queen, and this can't be taken as the pawn is pinned to the king's defense. As you see, it would be in check. So for that reason, after queen h5, black has to do something about it, so decides to go king e7, preventing this threat, as this pawn can simply take now. Now Tate's pawn is still under attack, so Tate goes rook c1, aligning this rook along the same file as this queen. So it would be very risky for black to take here, as this rook would be on the same file, and there's always discoveries with moves like knight d5 with check, maybe discovering an attack on the queen here. And now knight d3 is played. This move, knight d3, seemingly looks very annoying, as white when I have to waste a tempi with the rook and move it to safety. That's what you probably think anyway. However, Tate completely ignores this threat and just goes cb5. Brilliant move awarded by the computer. You might be wondering, hasn't white just blundered an exchange after knight c1 and rook c1? Well, I think that's what Tate's opponent thought. However, Tate has something very, very special rolled up his sleeve. After rook c1, queen b6 is played. You cannot take here, because after knight d5, unleashing a deadly attack on black's queen, queen, it would simply be lost after this is taken. Queen b6 attacking this knight. You may be thinking, surely Emory has to move the knight. Well, no, he doesn't. He goes knight a4, leaving it hanging. This knight had been taken. Then we have the very nice move, rook c7. If the king goes to e8, then we simply checkmate very fast like this. That would be a checkmate. However, if the king decides to go to d8, after queen f7, bishop c8, the only move keeping black in the game, then we play the very nice move b6, threatening the simple fork on b7, which would attack the bishop and the rook. To say a move like rook b8, trying to get out of the fork, we play bishop e6, threatening to take here, and then take on checkmate on d8. So if this would be taken, and after this, there's no way for black to defend against the threat of queen d7 checkmate. This knight, this pawn, it's just too much. Black would simply be lost here. So that is why queen d8 is played. And now Tate clarifies on the queen side and goes ba6. Rook a6 is played because of bishop c6. Oops, you accidentally blunder a fork to the knight, hitting the queen and the king would be completely GG's. So for that reason, we see the move rook a6, and now Tate goes queen b5. Very nice looking move, attacking this bishop and this rook, really shuffling all the pieces to this queen side where this king is weak, especially if Tate can get a rook to the c7 square. It will pretty much be lights out. And now we see the move queen d7, really holding the glue here. Now we see the move bishop f1 by Tate. A very classy move, saying if you're going to take, I'm going to take here, threatening rook c7, forking your king and your bishop. So rook a7 would have to be played. Anyway, after rook c7, king d8, we simply take here, threatening this, and the minor pieces come in, and there will be a serious threat of a checkmate. So after bishop f1, we see the move rook a4. Tate's opponent trying to get back the exchange, try to get as many pieces off the board as possible. Tate is not interested in trading queens here. If you know anything about Tate, he doesn't like trading queens. So after rook a4, we actually see the very nice move queen b6, threatening rook c7. After queen b6, we see the move rook b4, just really trying to give this rook back. Tate said this was a computer-looking move. Anyway, Tate's opponent is really forcing the exchange. So Tate just says, you know, give me your rook then. Now Tate's opponent plays the annoying move bishop h6. Tate was not very happy here because this bishop is forcing this rook to move, and say this rook moves, and after a move like rook c8, if Tate's opponent can get into a bishop's endgame with the rooks exchanged off, and or at least him having control of this c file, will have actually quite good chances, as he's got the bishop pair, which is said to be worth more than the bishop and the knight. So after bishop h6, it was really bad for Tate, and also his pawn on e4 is hanging. Tate plays a brilliant move here and plays the move bishop b5. And what Tate said about this move was amazing. He said, this move is hard to find even for a pro. So great stuff, because it's really the only move that saves white in this position. And now this queen is under attack, so you have to move it. So queen d8 was played, and now Tate plays a nasty move, rook c6, saying if you're going to take, I'm going to fork you right here. Now we see the very brave looking move, queen d7. In this position, there's not many discoveries that really work. There's no like rook d6 winning the queen, because this queen can simply take. So here Emory just simply slides the rook back to c4 and says, you know what, I'm going to bring my knight in. Your king is very vulnerable. You're going to die. After rook c4 and queen d8, a very formidable international master resigns. Tate had calculated a very nice win with a queen c3 if Tate's opponent didn't resign, and after king f8, the best move, getting off his 7th rank, move like rook c7, attacking this, and after queen a8, very nasty move, knight e6, and if this is taken, you simply lose, and after king g8, there's the very nice move, queen f6, and the threats of this is just too much, honestly. So that is the game, an extremely nice win for Mr. Tate. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, all of that stuff is greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time and attention, and if you're interested in watching any more of Emory Tate's games, I've got some right here for you. Have a good day.